Alright, what's going on guys, it's Shiny here, and I am bringing you my Apex settings video. One of the main things to take away from this video is not necessarily to copy my sense, my graphics, for exact. It's mainly just a guideline to give you guys a general sense of, how I like to play the game when it comes to the settings and all that. And just remember to be yourself, not me. Everyone's controller is different, everyone likes a different sense for this certain thing. So other than that, let's get straight into the video. And if you guys need help with figuring out any of the settings, when it comes to pitch, yaw, the dead zone, anything like that, you can leave a comment. I can help out by explaining certain things a little bit better, because a lot of people, they don't understand the settings of ALC and how everything works, and that's totally fine. So if you have any questions like that, just leave them in the comment. Starting off with the gameplay, a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory on what you prefer, what you don't prefer. At the end of the day, for this section, it's all preference. I do play in a colorblind setting. I'll switch between off and this one, and sometimes this one, but as of right now, I'm playing on this colorblind setting. Alright, next thing we're going into is the video and audio. For my field of view, I play on 110. One thing I would recommend is to disable FOV ability scaling. This is going to drastically affect your sense. So let's say you were to have this on. Your FOV is going to change, which then in turn affects your sense. However, if you were to have it disabled, your FOV does not change and you keep the exact same sense. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you are creating your sense. And if you're like a Bloodhound or an Octane player, and then minimal sprint view shake audio, I relatively like to have my audio on a little bit of the quieter side, because I do play on like loud audio in itself. When I'm playing, I just turn it up, but again, this is all just preference. And now let's move on to the controller setting. For the controls, I'm pretty sure this is what a lot of people are asking for. Starting off with the button layout, I play on default. People will play on button puncher, customized, all that. All I do is I play claw. I don't play with any paddles or anything like that. I do not play on hold for crouch, and I know this is like a big thing for certain people, because when you're holding, you can crouch spam a lot faster, and obviously when you have it on toggle, it's a lot more slower in between the crouches. So it's all preference when it comes to that. So going on to the next, a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. You don't want any dead zones on your your L2, R2 stuff, because then there's going to be delay in your aiming down, shooting, stuff like that. Menu cursor speed, once again, all preference, and always want to be on the lowest for dead zones, anything like that. I don't play on vibration. Alright, now looking at my settings, I'm going to basically explain everything before I actually talk about each of my senses and stuff like that. So starting with the dead zone is basically how much input you need to put into your right analog stick to control your recoil. So let's say you're using an R9 and you have 0 dead zone. It's basically, you don't have to pull as much down on your analog stick to control your recoil. But let's say you were to example just 50. The bottom of that blue circle, you would need to pull your stick that far down to actually control that recoil. Clearly you're not going to play on 50 because that's just not practical. But usually say from 0 to 5, that's kind of the general area you want to be at. Outer threshold, this one doesn't really make too much sense to me. How Panders explained it, it's kind of like a mouse pad. So the lower the number is, the bigger the mouse pad that you have, and the more room that you have for control. And as you increase, that orange circle gets smaller, and that basically in turn makes your mouse pad quote unquote smaller. So majority of the time, I just recommend people to have a lower outer threshold. Response curve, very similar to dead zone. You want to keep it relatively low. From 10 to 14, that's kind of your classic response curve feel. From 15 to 20, that's your steady feel, and then anything below 10 is a linear feel. So take it how you want. You can adjust it to your liking, anything like that. And then when it comes to the per optic settings, you know, this is basically, you know, what you want your sense to be for each optic setting. So kind of adjust it to that. And then for yaw and pitch, yaw is basically how fast you turn left to right, and pitch is how fast you turn up and down. For my yaw and pitch, it's 300 and 210. And then for the turning extra yaw and pitch, this is basically the extra, you know, speed that I get when I'm not ADSing on a target. So for instance, if I'm not looking at a target, this is how fast I'm going to be turning. But if I were to turn onto a target, you kind of see how like that little aim assist kicks in. It's not basically, you know, giving me extra aim assist when I lock onto someone. It's basically adjusting my sense from going from 550 to 300. And that's basically what it means. And the same thing for the pitch. It's basically adjusting my sense from going from a 280, because it's adding on from that extra pitch, into just 210. And that's the same thing for when it comes to your ADS. ADS, you know, has that same up and down, left and right for yaw and pitch, and then same thing for the turning extra. So if I'm aiming at a target, I'm gonna have 190. It's gonna be slow like that. But if I'm not aiming at a target, it's gonna be giving me 290. So this is 290, and then slows down to 190. And that's basically the AOC settings, you know, adjusting to the sense that you want. One of the reasons why I like to have turning extra yaw on is because it's easy to spray transfer. But a lot of people, you know, they're indifferent about it. So at the end of the day, it's kind of all preference for you. But 190, 210, 100, 100. And then skip the, you know, the tuning up, ramp up, and delay. That's useless. I play on the PC aim assist settings because, I don't know, I think it's pointless for me to even be on the console aim assist. It's just pointless. Make it 0.4 for everyone. And that pretty much wraps up the video and the gameplay settings. If you guys did enjoy, smash that like button and drop a comment on what you think. If you have any questions like that, just let me know. I will be happy to answer all of that jazz. If you guys want to see more videos, content, gameplay, videos, stuff like that, just let me know down in the comments below. And that's pretty much it. And I will catch you guys later.